So this is your help video for quiz 4.03. Here's your need to know info. And again, I put the formula sheet on here because a lot of this is on your formula sheet. So we're going to start talking about trigonometric ratios today. We're going to cover sine, cosine, and tangent, and they're all on your formula sheet. So you don't have to memorize these fractions. You can just refer back to your formula sheet. One thing that's really important is how you label your triangles. So we're going to talk about that on each quiz question. But your labeling changes based on where your reference angle is. All right, the only thing that doesn't change is the hypotenuse. The hypotenuse is always across from the 90-degree angle, and we always want to label that side first. But the opposite and the adjacent, they change based on your reference angle. So in this example, if this is my reference angle, the opposite is the side that doesn't touch the angle, and the adjacent is the side that does touch. And now when I say touch the angle, I just want to make sure this is clear. This is our angle. An angle is like a V shape. So the hypotenuse and the adjacent will always touch the reference angle, and the opposite will be the one across from it. All right, so let's try some problems. First thing we want to do is always label our sides. So it says, which side is opposite angle B? So angle B is my reference angle. That's the angle I'm dealing with. So first I always label my hypotenuse. And to do that, you find your 90-degree angle and you go straight across from it. That's your hypotenuse. The side that touches the reference angle is your adjacent. And the side across from your reference angle is the opposite. So in this case, side AC is going to be opposite of angle B. All right, in angle K in triangle MKL is a right angle. I'm going to go ahead and label that as a right angle. What is the value of tangent of M? Okay, so M is our reference angle. Notice down here it says tangent of theta. Theta represents your angle. So in this case, I need to go and put theta right here at M. All right, once I've labeled my reference angle, then I need to label all my sides. Remember, you always label the hypotenuse first. So go across from the 90-degree angles, that's your hypotenuse. The side that touches your reference angle is your adjacent. And the side that's opposite of it or doesn't touch it is opposite. And then I'm going to check out my formula. My formula says tangent of theta equals opposite over adjacent. So to get the tangent of M, I just take the opposite side of M, which is 15, over the adjacent side, which is 8. So that's our answer, 15 over 8. What is the trig ratio for the sine of angle S? Now, I added in the word angle, but remember, anytime it says sine S or cosine or whatever, that letter there represents the reference angle. So my reference angle is S. Now I need to label my sides. Always label the hypotenuse first. So find that 90-degree angle, go straight across from it. The adjacent touches the reference angle, so this side's adjacent. And the opposite is across from it. All right, and now we're looking for sine of S. So I'm going to go down to my formula sheet and pull the formula for sine of theta. So I need the opposite side, which I don't know yet, over the hypotenuse. And I do know the hypotenuse is 68. So let's talk about what to do when you are missing a side length in a right triangle. I know y'all have seen this before. It's come up a bunch this year, but anytime you have a right triangle and you're missing a side length, you are going to use the Pythagorean theorem. And the Pythagorean theorem is on your formula sheet, but we've used it so much that you might have that one memorized. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So I'm going to go back over here. Remember, C is always the hypotenuse. So I'm going to plug in 68 for C. And then it doesn't matter which one I let be which. I'm going to let x squared plus 60 squared. And then I'm going to do some solving. 60 squared is 3,600. 68 squared is 4,624. Subtract 3,600 from each side. And then lastly, you want to get rid of a square. So you square root because squares and square roots are opposite. I'm going to take the square root of 1,024 and that gives me 32. So now I know that this opposite side is 32. So I'm going to plug that into my fraction. Now it does say, you know, the OHS is really picky about your answers. It says enter your answer as a simplified fraction. So we don't want to leave it as 32 over 68 because we know we can reduce that. So if you don't know exactly how it reduces, you can just start dividing by 2. That's usually, I have a calculator that reduces it for me, so if you have one of those, that's awesome. You can just type in that fraction and it'll automatically reduce it for you. But let's say you don't have the calculator that'll reduce it for you. You're going to have to go through and just, if you notice a GCF, a greatest common factor, go ahead and divide by that. If not, just divide by little numbers as you go. So I divided top and bottom by 2. I notice they're both still even, so I'm going to divide by 2 again. And now I have 8 and 17, and there's nothing else you can divide those by. 17 is actually prime, so my simplified fraction would be 8 over 17. All right. What is the trig ratio for cosine D? So angle D is our reference angle. Let's put that on our picture and then let's label it. We always label the hypotenuse first. It's across from the 90-degree angle. Adjacent is the side that touches your reference angle, and opposite is across from the reference angle. And since I want cosine, I'm going to check out my formula sheet. Cosine of theta is going to equal the adjacent side over the hypotenuse. So my adjacent is 21, and my hypotenuse is 75. And it wants it in simplest form. So if you have a good calculator, you can type it in and it'll reduce it for you. If not, we have to think, well, what can we divide both of those by? I know I can divide both of them by 3, so I'm going to try that. So when I simplify this fraction, I'm going to take it and I'm going to divide by 3. 21 divided by 3 is 7, and 75 divided by 3 is 25. And now I can't reduce 7 anymore because it's prime. There's nothing else that I can do to this, so that would be my simplest fraction. All right, Carlotta has leaned a ladder against the side of her house. The ladder forms a 53-degree angle with the ground and rests against the house at a spot that is 4 meters high. Which length is the best approximation for the distance along the ground from the bottom of the ladder to the wall? Okay, so we're trying to figure out approximately that length. Okay, so I like this problem a lot because it doesn't tell us exactly what to do. But we do have a reference angle here. We know 53 degrees. So I'm going to let that be my theta. And I'm going to go ahead and label my sides. Across from the 90-degree angle is the hypotenuse. Touching the angle is the adjacent. And across from the angle is the opposite. All right, and then I'm going to ask myself, well, what information am I given? Notice we don't know anything about the length of the ladder. That doesn't help us. But we do know that the opposite side is 4 meters. And the adjacent side is what we're trying to solve for, so it's x. So I have to pick out which trig function would be appropriate. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm just going to ask myself, well, what am I given? I'm given the opposite and the adjacent. So look down here at each of your options. This one says, sine says hypotenuse. We don't have that. Cosine says hypotenuse. We don't have that. Tangent is the only one that we have enough information for. So we're going to use that formula. Tangent of theta equals opposite over adjacent. And now I'm going to start plugging in what I know. I actually know my reference angle is 53 degrees. So I'm going to plug in a 53 there. The opposite side is 4, and the adjacent side is x. We don't know it. And then back in Unit 2, I think, or Unit 3? No, Unit 2. We did a ton of cross multiplying. So that's really my favorite method because we get so used to doing it. So I'm going to go ahead and cross multiply here. 1 times 4 is 4. Tangent of 53 times x is still tangent of 53 times x. And I'm solving this equation. Don't let the tangent of 53 freak you out or anything. It's just a number. So if I want to get the x by itself, right now I'm multiplying. The opposite would be to divide each side by the tangent of 53. That would make that cancel, leaving me with just x. And then this is a calculator problem. So let me show you how to type that in a calculator. So if you have my favorite calculator in the whole wide world, you can set it up exactly how it looks. You can hit the fraction button and do 4 over tangent, which is right here, of 53, and close your parentheses. And it gives you a decimal, which is approximately 3 meters. If you don't have this calculator, you can still do it. You would just want to do 4 divided by, and then you want to divide it by all the tangent of 53. So you put it in parentheses, tangent 53, and close your parentheses twice. And you would still get that. And I think if you have a computer calculator, let me go to that real quick so I can show you on the computer calculator as well. So the first thing you'd have to do on a computer calculator is change it from standard to scientific form so that we get all those sine, cosine, and tangents. And we had 4 divided by the tangent of 53. Oops, I typed that in wrong. I'm glad I tried this. So you have to type 53 before tangent. Good to know. So 4 divided by, and then in parentheses, we want 53, tangent of 53. Well, that didn't work either. Let's try to type in tangent of 53, get an answer, and then do 4 divided by that answer. There we go. Okay, so there's probably an easier way to do it, but clearly I don't know it since I just messed it up twice. So the way I figured it out finally is I typed in the tangent of 53 first, got like approximately 1.3, and then did 4 divided by that approximation. So that gets us close to 3 meters. All right, so that is it for this quiz. Good luck!